hardcore bands that are revitalizing the genre. The group formed in Santa Cruz in 2019. With each new release, they've not only gotten better, but they've converted more fans. They've gotten accolades from several established artists like Limp Bizkit, who took the group on tour in 2022. That's all well and good, but the question you're probably wondering is, does Scowl have ska roots? The answer is yes. Their bass player, Bailey Lupo, used to play in one of San Jose's greatest ska-punk bands of all time, Caps. Be sure to check out Scowl's latest record, Psychic Dance Routine. It is excellent.
We've known Bailey for a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, this is back in this is like 10, 15 years ago that we first met them.
Bailey was a child. Bailey was in a band called The Caps, and that band was a ska punk band.
Or were they called Caps?
Well, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But if you're a big fan of Scowl, back it up. Go listen to Caps or The Caps. Check that out. Check out this the checkered past of this musician.
The story, as I understand it, is Fred Durst messaged the Scowl Instagram.
Yes.
And just like, hey, I like your band.
And I said, this guy got hacked. Delete this shit. Like, this is weird, dude. It's the guy from wrestling, dude. I know about him from WWF at the time.
Were you the one managing the Instagram, or did you hear about it?
I heard about it immediately. Like, a screenshot hit our group chat, and it was like, what do you guys think of this? And I said, it's fake. That's super fucking weird. Like, this is probably a crypto scam. You know, I don't believe it.
How did you determine it wasn't fake? What was your way to test it out?
Apparently, he was really persistent, and it seemed legit. Our guitar player was like, "I'm just gonna message him back, and I'm gonna see what he says." And he's like, pretty pumped on the tunes. He found us on YouTube, and the TikTok clip that went around of us from one of the RBS, like the first show back after the whole shelter in place thing. There was something like 2,500 kids are just packed in an industrial parking lot behind a Target in San Jose.
Yeah, that was the real bass shit, or RB.
The real bass shit. Yeah, he saw clips of that and was like, "What the fuck is in the water in San Jose?"
I remember Adam saw that clip before I did and was like messaging me like, "Dude, have you seen this? It's insane."
Yeah.
Do you remember, Adam, when like what your impression of that was the first time you saw it?
Yeah, I was just like, because it was like the first thing that really happened since the pandemic. And like there were like 2,000 kids losing their minds, shooting off fireworks. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? So that's rad that Fred Durst saw that and was like, I want this.
Yeah, no, it was crazy.
So before the pandemic, what kind of crowds were you drawing?
It was always pretty small for the most part, like DIY venues, house shows. We played a lot of the tiny, like the Sabrosa Community Center in Santa Cruz. It's like an anarchist library.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah,
exactly. So it was like shows like that, and it was like, this is super fun to just open for, you know, all of our friends' bands on tour, like people from other countries and part of the world, other states coming to town and being the band that kind of was the local draw. And that to me was the most success I've ever seen, being in bands for this long now.
So you were a little shocked as well at that Real Bass Shit show.
I was surprised that there was that many people that I just didn't know that came to a show in San Jose that was completely DIY. I mean, friends built the stage that day, pretty much got everything announced that day, and I was not expecting that.
I thought it would maybe be a couple hundred kids. I didn't think it would be the scene it ended up being.
Me too.
Yeah, not only was I'm sure you were surprised at people interested in your band, just San Jose DIY is notoriously lackluster.
Yes, absolutely.
So that the fact that it was a San Jose thing was like extra surprising.
Oh, that was the coolest part of it. That was it. You know, I've for a long time thought, am I wasting my time? You know, I love punk rock. I love playing in DIY underground, not corporate sort of shows or like with that mindset. It's just about having fun, getting kids from all backgrounds just in the same room with something in common, something to do that's maybe a bit more positive or productive. And whether that's 20 kids at Sub Rosa in Santa Cruz or 2,500 kids behind a Target in San Jose, it's the coolest thing in the world to see that come together. And like that is something that I don't think I'll ever forget for the rest of my life.
I read in an interview that you said your favorite Limp Bizkit song is Break Stuff. Is that a real answer?
I would say it is Break Stuff. That's the one,
That's the one. That's the one you put on when you're feeling angry.
Yeah.
Aaron, what's your favorite Limp Bizkit song?
Do you want my honest answer?
Sure.
Fred, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but this is my honest opinion. No Limp Bizkit song is my favorite song.
That's incredible. Respect. That's awesome.
Adam?
I saw Limp Bizkit open for Korn at the Edge in Palo Alto, and I think they have a song called Counterfeit. I liked that one.
All right.
But I'm not a fan of the band overall. Yeah.
What was it like touring with them?
It was incredible. And I totally understand, maybe people's hang-ups about the band, their music, whether it's the style. And I'm not a new metal or guy really myself. So I was like, it's just cool that a band that has for this long, for a couple generations had this big of a platform, interested actually in a band like us. But to be completely honest, meeting Fred Durst on the first day, it was exactly like in Wayne's World when they meet Alice Cooper. And, and they're like, this guy kicks ass, this dude rocks. And he just starts schooling them about like the indigenous people of Milwaukee and all this stuff. And he's like a really articulate, well-spoken, just, smart individual. And they're like so starstruck and so surprised. They like almost don't believe it because they're stupid asses. But it was exactly that. Like talking to Fred, I thought that he was going to be exactly how he was on wrestling or in the music video or something. And it was exactly like that scene in Wayne's World, and became a pretty good friend of ours quickly. He told us that, he grew up in like punk and hardcore and stuff in the 80s. And he told us this absolute horror story about one of the first shows I think he went to when he was a kid. He saw Gigi Allen.
Oh, God.
Exactly everything you would think. I think he was like 15 or something. And I think maybe his parents dropped him off and they had no idea what was going to happen. And neither did he. He talked to us about some of his favorite bands being everything from Quicksand to Peg Boy. And he was just like totally with the shits. And I was like, yo, this guy's awesome.
That's so funny because I think I remember at the time when they were popular reading an interview and he said that he'd never read a book in his life or something like that. Like he was like really putting, I don't know if that's true, but definitely putting on the persona.
I doubt that's true. I think that the persona, just the cult of personality, really what it became, I think took over because I couldn't tell what was an act and what wasn't, what was a bit. And like just talking to him as just like this real just dude who's like same age as my dad. I was like, this guy's just a cool, chill ass dude. Like he's my new friend.
Did he watch your set from side of the stage or anything?
Yeah, all the time.
Sick.
He would watch our sets, he'd watch our sound checks, and then we would talk to the whole band. I mean, to see Wes Borland and do like rig rundowns with him was just the coolest thing ever. I mean, he had just was fresh off the Coachella show because he's playing guitar with the Danny Elfman band. So he was explaining like his whole rig and the style he plays and all this stuff about his gear. He took the time like a couple times to really like give us a real rig rundown. And that was awesome.
That's sick.
All right. Well, Limp Bizkit I like Limp Bizkit now since they're down with Scowl.
I don't know if they're down with ska though. I never opened that bag of worms with them, and I feel I might have to phone a friend.
Yeah. Text Fred right now.
See if he can find out for us. Do you like ska?
Do you like ska?
I'll report back by the end of the day.
Okay, great.
You've always been kind of around a really eclectic music stuff because, right? I mean, you've been into punk rock and all this stuff, but your dad's also been an influence on your taste to some degree too, right?
Absolutely.
I remember one time I went to go see Weird Al at the Mountain Winery, and I see you and your dad, maybe your sister, I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
You were all there, and he's like,
that's incredible.
he was like, I'm teaching the kids the real shit or something like that.
That sounds like something you would say. Yeah, and that's exactly how that went down.
And then I think you told me back then too that he would always like lecture you about the Cactus Club, right? About how back in the day we had the Cactus Club.
Oh yeah, he talks about the Cactus Club still all the time. I wish I could have gone to some of those shows. I mean,
What shows does he bring up?
it's like Primus, bands like Faith No More. I think he saw No Doubt. I think he's seen Guar there. Like that really weird late 80s, early to mid 90s, like funky kind of weird music that was happening, which I have a huge appreciation for. I mean, if it's Mike Patton related or something, or if it's Primus is one of my favorite bands, anything like that. I don't think he was going to any of the like power violence kind of shows that were probably happening in the Bay Area at the time.
Yeah,
But he was going to the funk metal shows though.
Yes, he was going to the funk metal shows, talking about Psycho Funktopus and Salmon and all this shit. I love this stuff.
The Cactus Guar show is pretty infamous because I believe somebody got hurt and an ambulance was called, but the medical team was confused because there was so much fake blood.
Yes, I think in the Cactus Club documentary that there was a section about that incident.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it since it came out or something. Or well, my dad must have found a copy of the DVD somewhere.
No, I gave him a copy.
You gave it. That's what I thought. I think I remember that. Yeah.
I gave him a copy. Yeah.
And we watched it. It was like I didn't do my homework that week. I watched that instead.
You had to do the real homework.
I think that was more beneficial to where I am now.
Sure. Yeah. So I've seen that some other artists have like, co-signed Scowl, shall we say? Post Malone wore a shirt at the Miami Grand Prix. Haley Williams gave the shout out, gave the band a shout out on BBC Sounds Radio. Have you spoken to? Have either of those bands reached out to you directly?
To me personally, no. To the band, I think that there's a little bit of a chain of communication to management, perhaps with those people. I can't speak for exactly because I don't 100% know. I think that with Haley Williams, she directly told. I think it was on Toby Morse from H2O's podcast. She's like, "I love ska." I think that's what that was, and he told us because we've gotten to become kind of friends with that guy recently as well.
Interesting.
I believe I'm like 99% sure that's how that one went with Post Malone. I don't exactly remember. I think his photographer, he's like a cool skinhead, like old school punk, hardcore dude. And so we got to meet him. He took a couple pictures of us at a show and used it for a revolver thing. His name's Adam. He's a really cool cat. I like that guy a ton.
Mm. Are you aware of anyone else that's a fan of your band? That's a known name, shall we say?
Yeah, the two people in Narboots doing this interview, I guess, right? No, that's real shit. That's real bass shit.
Real bass shit.
Narboots. Other than that, not really. No, I mean, I don't know. I'm not really super tapped in with a lot of the celebrities and things. I don't really know. I don't watch TV. Like I said, I haven't owned a computer in over 10 years. I'm pretty out of touch with these things.
What was the decision to not own a computer?
Well, I had one and it broke, and then I realized I was broke, so I was like, I'm just not gonna get one. It's not really it's not like a Ted Kaczynski type of situation.
Right.
It's just a practicality. I'm poor.
Yeah. I mean, you still have like a cell phone. You can check your
Yeah,
email on that.
I had a flip phone until about 5 years ago, and everyone was making fun of me. They're like, dude, just get a smartphone, man. These things are outdated. And I was like, yeah, but the battery lasts for 4 or 5 days. You could drop it in the toilet.
You never had the problem? Well, I guess the flip phones are better, but like the old Nokia brick phones, if you dropped them, they'd like shatter into like 5 different pieces, and then you'd have to like Tetris it back together.
But they would go back, but it would work though, right?
Totally. They were indestructible.
The battery would fly like 40 feet across the floor. And you just slap it back in. You're playing Snake again in no time.
Got to beat that high score.
Now, you recently met Jer from Ska Network.
Yeah, just the other day I met them at our show in, I think, Tampa or
Gainesville.
Orlando. Gainesville. Yes, it was Gainesville, yes.
Yeah, I made that happen.
Of course.
I did. I was texting with Jer, and they were like, I'm at the Scowl show. And I was like, go say what's up to the bass player. They like ska.
Oh, that's awesome. If we could somehow do a collab or a remix.
Oh, that'll happen for sure.
Like, I mean, sometimes at band practice, we'll switch instruments when we're writing a song, and I'll play the Scowl song, but I'll do all the bar chords, the upstrokes, and I'll turn it into a Scowl song, and no one else thinks it's cool or funny at all but me.
So nobody else in the band fucks with ska? They
do a little bit. I mean, everyone loves the specials. That's probably,
Yeah.
No one, you could find any ska hater ever. Like you put on Ghost Town, no one is gonna say, "Oh, this sucks." That's a good song, man. No matter who you are, that's a good song, right? But I don't think anyone in Scowl gives a shit about like if I put on Mustard Plug or 5 Iron Frenzy, perhaps. I think that's when the people are like, yo, turn this shit off. What is this? And I'm having my Christian ska moment, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Let me have this.
Did you ever have a Christian youth group ska moment? Like, was that ever like a thing for you?
When I was younger, the youth group that I did go to, it wasn't as ska as I wish it was in hindsight. There was a lot of like that Christian, like hardcore and Christian screamo, like white belt screamo.
Oh, was it at the Cave?
I didn't go to that one. No, I went to this other one in Campbell, and the people were really into that stuff. But I was really into Christian pop punk bands like MXPX, and one of my favorites is they had Reliant K. I still listen to those bands pretty heavily.
What was the place you went to in Campbell? Was it the Chemical Free Zone?
No, it was just the youth group it was called Bethel Church. It's still there. It's on Winchester.
Oh, okay.
And they would have like skate ramps set up and bands like Christian bands play or the youth group band play. But they'd have like breakdowns and people would hardcore dance for the Lord and wear a helmet on the skate ramp, and then they'd still break their arm hitting someone. It was pretty interesting. The mid 2000s, back when Bush was president, was a very strange time.
Yeah.
Another Scowl question. Asian Man Records had an opportunity to sign Scowl and passed. Correct?
Oh, man. Yes. That is 1000% true.
How did that go down? How did that conversation go with mine?
So this was like during the pandemic. So like the height of like the shelter in place, we'd recorded a record with our friend Toshio, who is an engineer at Panda Studios, which I'm familiar with. The Caps recorded there when I was in high school. And there wasn't really anything going on. We had done a little bit of touring, and we were kind of shopping this album that we had paid for ourselves completely out of pocket, like from the band fund, selling t-shirts, the couple shows we played, money from our pockets for gas to get there, everything. And we had this album, and we were just like sending it to other hardcore and punk labels that we thought were, cool and up and coming. And I was like, dude, I'm going to call in a favor from the big dog right here. And I was like, what? And our guitar player, Malachi, was like, yo, call Mike right now. And I was like, all right, we'll see what he says. And we must have begged him and texted him once a week. We have this album. I'll send it to you. You got to hear it. And he's like, this is really good. But where I'm at with life and with the pandemic and with everything going on and the bands I'm currently working with, I just don't think I can take anything else on. Like, I'm pretty busy. Uh, and he only felt kind of bad, but I don't think he really give a shit that much. He's Mike. And he, I think 6 months later, texted me, "What the fuck?" He said, "I messed up." He saw a video on TikTok or YouTube, and he was like, "I've messed up big time."
Yeah, that's what he told me. He told me that was one of his biggest mistakes.
It was that, and I think At the Drive-In are the two bands he turned down that were really...
Yeah, he also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he turned down Catch-22, and
Wow.
he got that main dude told him that, oh, like, I think teasingly, because they're friends, like, oh, you would have had these records from Catch-22 and the first couple Streetlight records.
Wow.
So that, yeah, let's go through all of Mike's mistakes, shall we?
let's put him on blast.
I also recall visiting Mike once and saw you and some other folks packing records. How many times do you remember like packing records at Asian Man?
Yeah, I remember doing it a good amount. Last time I saw Mike, he said that I maybe helped him 2 times, and I would never work. He said I was the laziest person ever met there.
Oh my God.
He said I would just go and bother him and Bob at the time, and I would ask them about, girls or something, or ask them for advice, talking about taxes. He said I was a bum. But I remember packing a Joyce Manor record for 9 hours, and I had to drink water bottle from the fridge. He said, "Don't drink because it'll taste like kimchi and fermenting foods that are also in that fridge." And that's all I had to eat or drink for the whole day was that. And he told me, he's like, "Don't drink the water in here." And I was like, "Dude, I'm dying. I'm going to drink this water." And I like kimchi, so I thought it was kind of awesome. I was like, "This is great." I kind of tricked myself with that, thinking I had eaten the whole meal. And I went back to work, and I hurt my back from just being slouched over. I actually ditched school that day, and I rode my bike in the rain all the way to Los Gatos to pack that record and drink that water.
How far is that ride?
That's probably just under 10 miles from where I was at the time.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And what was your take home for that day? Like Mike usually like gives you records. What did you get that day?
He gave me, I remember exactly what he gave me. Other than the kimchi water bottle, he gave me a Sprainerd sticker that I had cut that day, and an Alkaline Trio sticker I put on my water bottle. The Joyce Manor CD, not the vinyl. He gave me the CD. That I'm pretty sure I packed. And he gave me one more thing. Oh, a keyboard CD. My favorite Asian Man release of all time. He gave me a keyboard CD.
Oh yeah,
that one's probably worth something now. It's hard to get.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's a legendary Asian Man release.
I think he told me it's one of the last ones in a box. He's like, "I might throw this away, so you should have it." He was obviously kidding, because I said this will be worth money one day. Watch.
All right, let's dig into the past, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so first question, most important question: the Caps or Caps?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Caps, the latter.
Okay, but it started as the Caps and then was changed to Caps, right?
Yes, it was, and I have to this day. I think that's a stylistic thing. That one day I went to Drew's house instead of going to school, very common at the time, and he just told me straight up. He's like, "Yeah, the Caps, like that's stupid, man. Just Caps."
Caps, way better.
Caps, way better. In all capital.
Yeah, all capital letters too. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yep.
He just said it. He was like, "Dude, it's harder. It looks way harder." And I was like, "Yeah, I agree, I guess."
I agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
The Cap sounds like a power pop band or something, which to me is way cooler. So I kind of like that. I might actually take it back.
So Caps were like a 4-piece punk ska band. What would you say your main influences were?
Well, okay. When I first joined it and it was the Caps, Drew told me he said, "Oh, I'm being a ska band." I said, "Yo, is it cool ska or is it like stupid ass ska?" You know, and he said, "I guess both or something like that." I don't know. He wanted it to sound like it was like a surf rock band. He wanted it to be like the Ventures or Dick Dale, but
Yeah.
with like the specials, kind of like spooky, kind of like creepy, like mod two-tone kind of feel to it. That's what he originally wanted to do. And I said, "Oh, okay, that sounds really cool." So he gave me a bunch of albums to listen to and do some homework. And then we kind of practiced and we just covered Choking Victim. So I would say the number one influence of that band through the entire duration, with without the Choking Victim, was the band that we were trying to rip off.
Okay.
But there was definitely that weird surf element. Like I feel like you guys had like an instrumental song that was like just a straight up surf song.
Yeah, we never totally ditched that, and I think that was at the time we kind of wanted to stray away from that surfy sort of thing. But I went back and I listened to the album that we recorded today. I downloaded it, and I was like, dude, the surf stuff on here is just kicks ass. Like I think that this was the smartest thing that we could have done without really knowing at the time. With hindsight, the surf stuff is like the coolest, strangest thing ever. There's a million crappy ass ska punk bands that have weird recordings and were just kids in high school. But it's always the stuff where they're doing something different. They put their own spin on it that 10, 20 years later just appreciates well. And I think that was the coolest thing, was how much Drew specifically wanted to keep the surf rock thing going.
Do you know when the band started?
I think in 2009.
Okay. So the official final Cap show was in December of 2012 at the San Jose Rock Shop.
I missed that place.
And then the reunion show was a year and a half later. Also, also at the San Jose Rock Shop.
Yes.
Now you can see the reunion show the whole set on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
One thing I noticed, zero ska.
Yes, that was intentional.
How come?
Yeah, let's hear. I'm going to say this one more thing. This thing first, though. Someone in the crowd during the set was yelling for some ska, and Jason, your singer, goes, kind of like acknowledges it and says that the lack of ska is controversial, and everyone kind of laughs, and then you continue on not playing ska.
Yeah, I think we were definitely felt too cool that day.
Did you have the no more ska conversation?
I think we had the no more band conversation more so. I think we intentionally there was a couple songs that were punk, hardcore, D beat, blast beat stuff going on, and it would break out into like a weird like reggae kind of like ska, weird random little interludes in the middle of the songs, right? And I think we had intentionally changed it at that show so that would never happen. We never played any of the ska parts. We just made them weird, kind of, I don't even know, just weird, not ska parts. And I think, I remember we were all, at this point, we're embarrassed of our ska selves. What year was that? 2013, 14?
The reunion was 2014, yeah.
Yeah, we were definitely too cool for school. I'm pretty sure I didn't want anyone to think I was associated with ska. I can only speak for myself here. I talk to Drew and Jason all the time. We're still really good friends. So I'm gonna ask them too. I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna follow up with those guys and say, "Do you guys remember that?" And I'm gonna see what they say. I'll swallow my pride. I'll swallow my pride on this podcast, and I will say I was a ska hater for that year for some reason. It's a really existentialist problem that I think ska fans have. But then once you look into the void or something and you realize, ska is the shit, dude. That stuff is awesome. You kind of like, did you have a rebirth maybe? I think.
Yeah.
And also, just for the listeners, really quick, we keep talking about Drew. What band is Drew playing in now?
He plays in a band called Spy, and they're kind of like awesome hardcore punk, kind of like that cavernous vocals and stomping around and jumping off of shit. It's just badass power chords, nonstop, unrelenting. It's awesome stuff. I love that band more than anything. They just opened the Turnstile show the other night at the Fox.
Yeah, Fox Theater. One of my somebody I know went to that show, and I said, "How was Spy?" Because they were in a Spy hoodie. They're like, they're great. They played like 10 minutes.
I love that. Oh, that's how it should be.
I thought that was amazing.
So yeah, so Drew, and he was in that band Lear. He plays in the band Superworld now.
What do you think about there being a new hardcore band in San Francisco called Lear?
At first, I was so bummed. Obviously,
Yeah,
I was like, dude, these kids never did their homework. Like, who are these random young people? They're like, got to be 11 years younger than me, so they don't give a shit what I think, which is cool. Like, I like that. And I was like, man, someone's got to tell them. So I went over to Drew's house one day, and I was like, what do you think is up with that band, man? I was like, that's so stupid, man. Can't you believe it? Stealing your name, stealing your swag. Every time they post anything, half the comments is like people like me and, maybe Jeremy or something or whatever, just trolling on him saying like, Lear this, Lear that. And Drew goes, no, I think it's so cool. He's like, I don't give a shit. I really wanted him to get mad and say that he thought it was really stupid. I really wanted him to go on the whole rant with me about how we thought it was so weird that kids these days, they just don't know. They weren't there, man. And he was like, I think it's so cool. They don't give a shit, man. He's like, they have no idea. That's awesome. He was like so hyped on it.
What if they're not Lear though? What if they're Leer?
Oh,
could be.
you know what?
That might be the case.
I could ask them.
Yeah,
It could be Lear.
Yeah, go text them, please. Yeah.
I do not have any of those people's phone number.
Tell people about Lear. Tell people about Lear. Tell people about Lear because Lear. God.
Lear, the original Lear?
Yeah, tell people about the original Lear because at the time they were kind of like the band of the scene.
They were the band of the scene. It was nuts to see that. Lear was originally, I played bass in it, but they kind of said I wasn't good enough to play math rock.
Really?
Yeah, we called it Down the Street, and I was supposed to play bass in it, and I was kind of bitter about it, actually, because I felt like I sucked. They changed the name to Lear. They didn't really kick me out. They kind of just got Frank to play, who's 1,000 times better bass player than I ever will be. Right decision. But it kind of made me want to step my chops up more, kind of get practicing because I felt kind of embarrassed that I wasn't good enough to play. So they kind of played a little fusion of math rock, kind of jazz rock, sort of screamo post-hardcore, and kids lost their mind over this. To see 15, 16-year-olds playing music that they thought a band maybe from Japan or someone or somewhere, maybe what's that record label that like bands like the Cabs and all these, it's like a specific sound and a specific label from Japan that puts out a lot of these kinds of bands. And I think people were surprised that this band was just kids from San Jose playing that style so well, and they were taking over the world. I think the whole West Coast was just mesmerized by them. When Scowl played in Europe, we were in Austria last year, someone had a bootleg Lear shirt at his show. And I was like, what the hell is this? That was the craziest thing I'd ever seen.
Did the Lear stuff ever get pressed on vinyl, or was it just digital only?
Yeah, no, they did a record with Lauren Records. It was like a half,
Nice.
it was like a 50-50 Lauren and Texas Toast, I believe, or Fat and Funky.
Nice.
It was like a split release with two or three labels, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Spring Break, No Parents.
Tell people who Fat and Funky are and Texas Toast.
Fat and Funky is the one and only Bob Boso.
Bob Boso, yes.
Bob Boso. Bob Vilma. He's one of my favorite people on this planet. We talk every now and then. And, when I'm in LA, I try to link up. but our schedules are usually pretty busy. But Fat and Funky is probably one of the most important sort of like San Jose little record label, music collective things to me personally.
Yeah, what are some of the artists that were on Fat and Funky?
I mean, my personal favorite, I mean, one of my favorite bands of all time is Shinobu. To this day, I put that on constantly in the car. I sing along. I turn people now that weren't there onto that band. Bands like them, Hard Girls, Pterodon. They had a bunch of weird things where they were rapping as well. Like other bands were all those same people from those bands were like rapping. Like maybe Rap Scallions, I think it's called.
Yep.
Or something like that.
Rap Scallions was Bob's like high school or maybe slightly past high school band. So it was like pre-Shinobu, yeah.
There was that. There was this Chillin' Dogs. There was a bunch of weird shit like that I was way too young to even know about. And when I would ask people like Bob or Mike Huguenot, I would be like, "What's up with this?" And they'd be like, "You got to get off the internet, man. Like, how do you even know what this stuff is?" I feel like I had to just do my research, and I was like this encyclopedia for unknown San Jose music, and I had to just know everything about every band ever.
Yeah, and Hard Girls, so a little before Lear, back when more Narboots was more active in the scene. So when was this? Like late 2000s, I think?
Yeah.
I feel like Hard Girls in the punk scene in San Jose was like, that was the band. I had like no doubt in my mind that they were going to break out and they were going to be huge. And I think that's how everyone in the scene felt.
Everyone, myself included.
And those records still hold up too, but you know,
Jesus,
it just didn't happen. And now Mike Huguenot plays in Jeff Rosenstock's band, so I mean, I'm glad for him that he was able to find success in music, but it didn't happen to be in Hard Girls.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard Hard Girls. I still sound checked the little opening bass from a song Laser Parade. That little bass line that opens that song up. To this day, I'd sound check that song at Madison Square Garden, and no one in the place even knows what I'm doing. Like that's just one of those little muscle memory riffs to me that just changed my life, because specifically like the Fat and Funky stuff and Hard Girls, Shinobu, like those bands when I was really young in high school and I was getting into punk and harder music. Like I only wanted to listen to a lot of stuff like Charles Bronson and Spaz and In Disgust and the grind or hardcore, just death metal, even like stuff like that is all I had cared about. But then to hear the Fat and Funky bands playing music that sonically speaking is not aggressive necessarily, and it's not punk by those standards, but it absolutely is. It is absolutely punk music, but it is just with a different emotional direction or angle, or it's cathartic, but it's getting out other parts of you that might not be about killing cops and fuck the government. As much as I love music like that for a lot of reasons, to hear music that is still punk but without saying that or with that message or imagery was the most revolutionary thing to me as a kid.
Yeah. And also it's like from a songwriting perspective, very well written melodic songs.
Oh god, it's some of the best hooks I've ever heard to this day.
Yeah.
Like, geez, man. Mike is a genius. Morgan's a genius. Max, all geniuses.
Yeah, they were so good. And then also some people may or may not know is they backed Jesse Michaels for Classics of Love as well.
Yes, I love Classics of Love.
So good, yeah.
That was the coolest. That was the coolest thing. Was I saw them play maybe once or twice at Nickel City, which was down the street from where I grew up.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about Nickel City. Made famous by the hyper ska artist Heiklers, with featuring guest vocals by Adam Davis.
Yes. That song kicks ass, by the way. That's so sick. When the first time I saw that, I was like, "Yo, Russ is a freaking genius."
Tell us about Nickel City.
Nickel City was a place. It was a little arcade that I used to go to with like my grandpa, like after church when I was like a little kid. He would take me, my sister there, and he'd give us like $10 in nickels, and he'd just kind of like, okay, go run around, and we'd be like, all right. And they had a happy birthday room at the end of it, kind of past the arcade games, and I remember being in maybe middle school or high school. I had heard about bands playing, like local bands. And that was so weird to me because I was like, what do you mean local bands? Like bands are like Guns N' Roses. That's a band. What's a local band? Like I'm in the 5th or 6th grade. Like, I don't get it. And they're like, no, they play in the happy birthday room. And I was like, that's weird. So a few years later, I went to one. I went to a show there and it totally blew my mind. And I had met so many friends that I still have. Drew from Spy and Leanne. Jason, who I went to school with, go to these shows together. Nickel City was a very special place in San Jose, but in the Bay Area, California, just DIY, underground music, and art. It was a very important place that sadly closed recently.
You said that was the first show you went to at Nickel City, right? It was Cheers to Door?
Yeah, Cheers to Door, and who else played that? I think Stick Up Kid may have played that as well. Anyways, Cheers to Door was Jake Margo's band.
Yes, ska band.
It's a ska band. They covered Gang Control by Leftover Crack. And that was crazy to me because I thought I was the only person in San Jose that knew what that song was. I thought I was like me and Jason, I thought we were the only little punk kids in the world that listened to Leftover Crack. So to hear and meet other people that really, really fucked with Leftover Crack changed my world again.
Now, you were saying that this show was where you were pitched the idea of the Caps?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is where Drew and his cousin Joe, who played drums, this is where they came up to me and they asked if I wanted to play bass in their band, the Caps. And they said it was ska, and I asked if it was cool ska or really stupid ass ska. And they said it was, I guess both. And I was like, sign me up. Let's go. Let's go.
Do you remember what the Caps' first show was?
The Caps' first show. I can't remember if that. I think we played at Joe's basement was our first show. I want to say. Yeah, I think we played in his basement. That's a Drew question. He has so much better memory than me. Drew and Jason would know. I'm stupid. I've somehow burned off and chiseled out so many of my brain cells from this time for some really random reason that I don't know. I couldn't tell you what happened during those very formative years to my frontal lobe, but for some reason I can't remember off the top of my head what the first Cap show was.
I want to ask you, there's a Caps Facebook post from 2011 where you guys say that you played your very first show where you didn't lose any Facebook fans after. And I also saw older posts where you said, "Oh, we played a show, we lost fans," like that was a running thing.
I think that might have just been us being like silly, just on Facebook, messing around with people. But I genuinely believe people didn't like us. So,
was that you? Did you post that?
It could have been Drew or Jason. I felt like they really, really, really loved messing around on Facebook.
The thing I like about your Facebook presence was that all of you would use it and you would comment on each other's posts, but it would all be the Caps.
Oh, I think we would sign at the bottom.
Yeah, you'd sign at the bottom which member.
Yeah, I do vaguely remember that too.
What was the deal with the album? You mentioned the album earlier in the interview, Did you officially release the album?
Dimension X. We did, and the record label that had put it out, it kind of just took a bunch of stuff down. And years later, I was like, "What happened to that? Like, it's not on Bandcamp." And I think it used to even be on Spotify, and they just deleted everything. So Drew and I were like, "Well, we have a CD with everything on it, so." He put it on Bandcamp a couple years ago, and we did a pay what you can and raised like $400 for a bail fund happening during the George Floyd protests a few years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I was surprised we made more than $20. Even we made probably about $300 or $400, yeah, which is incredibly surprising to me.
When in the band's run did you release it? Because reading your Facebook, it seemed like by the time the band broke up that the album was not done yet.
Yeah, it was around the same time we kind of called it quits. The first time of many, we put it out just on Mediafire. I think on one of the Facebooks. I'm pretty sure Drew just posted a link to the Mediafire and said, "Here you go, just download this shit." I think it still works, maybe too. Now I have to find out. I need to go get a computer first, and I will click that link.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about Monstrous. That's one of the bands I was going to ask you about from back in the day.
That is a band we played with a lot back in the day.
Okay, this was Adam and I are significantly older than you and a lot of the bands of this time when we were playing as Narboots. And one of the things that was most surprising to both of us was that this band Monstrous was really into 90s grunge.
So into it.
We were just like, really?
Yeah, it was like 90s grunge and Primus.
And ska.
Yo, they took the ska from us. They jacked our swag with that. I'll be honest.
Were they not fucking with ska originally?
I think they just wanted to sound like Alice in Chains or something originally, and then they slowly became a ska band. That's
weird.
They were really good friends of ours, so I'm not hating at all. I'm not trying to diss on my friends, but I think that they saw that our shows were lit. They were like, yeah, they were like, man. I'm just kidding, by the way. I think everyone realized ska is actually the coolest thing to happen in the world, and I think that's why they did it. They wanted to just have fun. They were not trying to step on our toes. We should probably just take this out. I don't know if they'll even hear this, but I was kidding. It was a joke. It was a joke. Ska does rule. Ska rocks.
What did they? So they, when they started playing ska, do you remember the name of the genre they said they played?
Oh God, yes. Actually,
okay.
I think my dad and I were laughing about this earlier. They wanted it to be scunge.
Scunge.
Ska grunge.
Ska grunge. Don't know if there's ever been another band to play ska and grunge.
Thank God.
Monstrous was one.
Yeah, I got to give it to them for that.
Who else was what were some of the other bands from that time period? Do you remember?
It was us, Monstrous, Cheers to Door, all the fat and funky bands. I mean, there were a lot of grindcore and power violence bands at the time too that were awesome.
There was Matt Surrey.
Yes, Matt Surrey. Yes. Oh wow, Matt Surrey. Probably one of my favorite San Jose bands of all time. In the top 5 for sure.
And there was I think there was a band called Point of View, a band called Stick Up Kid.
Point of View and Stick Up Kid, those are awesome. I actually just saw both of those bands play at the Art Boutique a few months ago.
Wow, really?
I didn't even realize they were still bands.
Me either, but I think one of those things was, the dudes are my age, maybe in their 30s now, and they decided to kind of just do it like a little reunion sort of show, kind of like with a Nickel City vibe. So I got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in like 12 plus years there.
Did Russ go to that show?
I don't believe so. I don't think Russ was at that.
Damn, rip.
What's up with that, Russ?
Russ lives in the Bay Area now, but I always keep thinking that
Russ lives in Oakland.
Yeah. Every time I'm in Salt Lake City, I'm like, I gotta text Russ. And I remember That fool moved back like 5 or 6 years ago almost.
Yeah.
What was your favorite house venue in San Jose back in the day?
Oh, all the ones I went to were awesome.
There was a Texas Toast House.
Texas, that's the one I went to the most because I live pretty close, so I was able to ride my bike or my skateboard. I live like maybe 2 or 3 miles from there.
And that was the Matsuri band. Some of the members of that. And then there was House of the Dead Rat.
Oh yeah, House of the Dead Rat was incredible. They had so many legendary shows there.
Sour Patch, that was members of Sour Patch, I think, ran that.
I love Sour Patch, and the band kind of fizzled out, but Bean still does Try the Pie, which is a band I also play in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the spin-off of Sour Patch.
Sure, yeah. And then I remember, I don't know if it was as much of a ongoing thing, but we did those shows at Dylan's backyard. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah, Dylan Prenda's little backyard barbecue shows.
Those were amazing.
Those were some of my favorites. I think those shows specifically is really what cemented the idea that it wasn't just about playing music, but there was a community. There was a much bigger picture, a lot more moving parts, more interconnection. I think those shows cemented that idea, really instilled that into me.
Do you remember any specific shows?
At Dylan's house, I think there was only maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, there wasn't very many.
Yeah, which kind of sucks because they were really cool. But they all kind of blend together in my mind.
Well, there was one. Okay, I'll bring up one, see if it brings up any memories to you.
Let's do it.
Narboots and Laura Stevenson.
I remember that.
What a lineup for a backyard.
And if I remember, we performed, but we were also like the hosts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we kind of like MC.
Which made no sense.
The first time we played at Gilman was opening for Laura Stevenson.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, that was like the coolest thing ever. I took like 1 billion pictures of like all the, just shit stuck in the toilet and stuff. Like I remember, I think it was so legendary to be playing at Gilman because how much I love bands like Operation Ivy and the Lookout Record stuff, Jawbreaker, that whole Gilman scene, really.
The thing I loved about the backyard shows at Dylan's house is that his dad would just cook a ton of food, like amazing food.
It'd be like linguiça and onion rings. I'd eat that like for hours.
And it was the best because you think of like, oh, punk house show. It's going to be a bunch of punks and cheap beer, and that's it. But no, his dad's like, no, this is a backyard. This is a barbecue. We're going to have good barbecue food.
Yeah, it was the coolest.
So Caps opened for Bomb the Music Industry in San Francisco. It's another one. And you all drove up into the show in Mike Park's van.
Yes, it was actually the last day of summer vacation before my senior year of high school.
Mm.
What do you remember about that show?
I remember seeing Bomb the Music Industry and being totally floored just by the show they put on, by seeing Jeff just really the way that he kind of controls and interacts with the audience. Well, I remember seeing that and I was like, this is legendary. This dude is like my frame of reference at the time because I was, in high school. I was like, this is like some Jello Biafra kind of like, just, I don't know, energy that this guy had. That was just so cool to me. I remember that like really sticking out. I thought it was cool to hang out backstage or whatever, like in the green room upstairs. The first time I'd ever played a show that had any kind of backstage. Other than that, I can't remember. I can't remember much else. I just having school the next day. It really bothered me.
You had to go to school after having driven all the way up to San Francisco?
Yeah, staying up super late, driving home. And I just wanted to rock. Like I was like, I just want to play music. I don't want to go to school. I don't care about school. It's more of that. More just being like, this is what I want to do with my life. And now I regret it every single day.
I remember pretty young you were talking about like how you the only future you saw for yourself was music.
Wow. The fact that you remember that's incredible.
I just thought it was because it stuck out to me because you were so young to be having that thought, like that you didn't see another alternative in your life besides music.
Yeah. It's still true. It's still true.
What is it because you just didn't like really connect with other things?
Yeah, I think it was a lot to do with that. I played sports when I was younger, but I quit that as soon as I started playing bass and guitar. I was like, I don't know why. It was so cathartic, I guess, just to be able to play a musical instrument, to learn how to express myself that way. And I just loved punk. All I cared about was punk. So I thought that I don't want to go to school. All I care about is punk rock. And now I'm like, man, you can do both. If anyone listening feels that way, hopefully there's some kind of hotline you can call and figure your shit out, because you can do both. You can go to school and you can still play music and tour. I know a lot of people that do both really well. I know a lot of people that suck at both. So I'm in the middle a little bit, I guess. I'm like right in between the cream of the cookie. But I'm having fun, I remember I even went to continuation school my senior year, and I was so excited to go because they pretty much told me that the work will be way easier. I'll never have homework, and school starts way later than everyone else. And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I was like, I have more time to play music and hang out with Drew and Jason. We could skate. We could skate everywhere and like listen to ska. That's all I cared about.
Yeah. Okay, here's another good Facebook post that I saw. Okay, here you go.
Yes, I love this.
Okay, which Narboot song should we cover? Bird of Prey, Tinnitus, or Omnivore?
I don't think we covered any of those songs.
You posted a poll, nonetheless.
I think Omnivore might be the one I remember the best.
Yes, that's an Adam song.
It's an Adam song. I like the one I like the Punknews song, and I like the when your favorite band breaks up, eat a sandwich. Those are my two favorites.
Yeah.
Classics.
Those are classics.
So Adam wrote this song about punknews.org and who was a much bigger deal at the time than they are now. And the whole ending was, your band broke up, eat a sandwich. And sometimes we would even insert like actual bands that had just broken up and then eat a sandwich. What was the eat a sandwich thing? That was like a thing that happened in the comment section.
Yeah. Somebody at one point, like offhand was like, oh, and such band just broke up and I'm going to go eat a sandwich. Like they were just basically like equating the importance of this band breaking up to, oh, and now I'm going to go eat lunch. Like
no big deal.
That it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And so then it just turned into this like trope where it was like a band would break up and then every person would like comment with what sort of sandwich they were going to eat that day.
So awesome. Yeah, the Punknews comment section used to be such a Wild West.
Yeah. Just the meanest, like you have to have the thickest skin to like read what they're going to say about your band on there.
Oh yeah. Where now they'll post every now and then, but they were a really big deal like 10, 15 years ago. Like I would go on Punknews every day.
Yeah, me too. Multiple times a day.
Yeah, they would talk about bands breaking up and eating sandwiches, new albums coming out, new tours. That's how I would find out about tours, really, because Facebook was really primitive at the time. So you would go on there and they would just have the flyer and a write-up about all the places they're playing. And I would just take a picture of it with my flip phone just to remember that they're playing a show at Maple City that whatever day. That's how I used to have to do it.
Yeah, the comments were so bad. I remember it was either the very first time or one of the first times that we got written about in Punk News. Somebody commented, they just went, shitty band, shitty dudes, or something like that.
Yeah, that was the thing. Shitty band, shitty dudes. It's like, well, you don't even know who we are.
Yeah,
like,
and I don't even think it wasn't even personal. It was like, that's what they just said, right?
Oh yeah.
But I remember it was weird to be on the receiving end of that. Like, what?
Yeah. Especially when you're not doing anything. You're playing fucking Nickel City. Like you're not like balling like, oh, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
So when we were doing Narboots, were you at the show where we got our iPod stolen?
Oh wow. That's a blast from the past.
It was at Gilman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember this because didn't you guys end up writing a song about getting your iPod stolen?
Not only that, but then we had a funeral. We had 3 different funerals, I think.
Yes, I remember.
And
this.
you were a pallbearer for the iPod.
Yeah.
So it was a house show in San Jose.
Whose house was that at?
It was it's not a house we brought up yet. It was all women lived there.
Oh, it was off Sonol Street.
Yeah.
It was like off Sonol and Race, kind of by where the music studio is.
Yeah.
Dude, what was that? Hijinks House.
Hijinks House. That's it. Yeah.
Yes. I think either the Caps played that show or we did play there at least a couple times because Jason grew up around the corner from that place.
So at that show, I remember we did a bunch of like really mournful, dirgy versions of our songs.
Yeah.
And then I remember Ben Henderson of Get Hustle was supposed to do something. And I think he was supposed to come up and rap. and he wasn't in the room or something. And so we all started like shouting "fuck Ben Henderson," and I remember you and Drew were doing like a call and response, like where we'd be like "zibba dabba dabba did a fuck Ben Henderson," and then you guys would jump in and do like repeat it.
That's amazing.
This is hyper niche content.
Hyper niche, yeah.
Oh wow, I'm in this coffee shop crying in the corner, just laughing uncomfortably. This is good.
So then Sim Castro at that show reveals that all of you had pitched in a little bit of money to buy us a new iPod. Do you remember that?
Nope, I probably didn't pitch in shit. I had no money.
I think Sim ended up paying the majority.
I'm pretty sure I pretended to put money in a basket like I do at church.
Oh yeah. I still have that iPod. It's smashed to shit.
Oh no.
Yeah. It was not the newer iPods aren't as durable as the older iPods. Just like we were talking about with those old Nokia phones.
With the phones, yeah, you used to be able to throw them against the wall and you got mad.
Yeah. You can't do that shit now.
Hell no. Wow, the iPod funeral. That is such a crazy throwback to me right now. Like you guys have no idea. That's
got to feel like a different lifetime at the. I know it does for me.
I'm gonna call Drew tomorrow and tell him I'm gonna ask him all this shit. I'm like, yo, do you remember any of this?
So back to Scowl. You were the last person to join the band, right? 2019.
Well, we added another guitar player since then, actually.
Oh, okay.
We did add another guitar player last year. My friend Mikey Bafalco from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I know you were playing in Try the Pie.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still playing in Try the Pie?
Yeah, we played a show about a month ago. We did an album release about a couple months ago for a new record we did. But they've had to have fill-ins at least a few times since because I tour with Scowl so much.
There was another band called Abysmalist, right?
Yes, that's a death metal band I do with my buddy Fred.
Is that still a thing?
We've only ever played one show.
So it's as much of a thing as it can be.
Yeah, he moved to Sacramento. Him and his wife Tessa had a baby. And then our drummer Jeremy moved to Seattle, and then COVID happened pretty much around the same time. So it's just been a nightmare to organize, which sucks because I really love playing in that band too. It's the most challenging for me as a musician. It's like it's not super technical death metal by any means, but the songs are like 7 minutes long, and I got to remember all that shit.
7 minutes is a long song. That's like longer than some power violence EPs.
That's yeah. Some long ass songs.
So you talked about the Real Bass Shit show, which was in kind of early 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like ever since then, there's been a lot of talk about this scene, the San Jose, Santa Cruz hardcore scene. It seemed to me like, much like what happened with ska, that this new generation of ska kind of grew during the pandemic. To by the time that shows started happening again, there was much more interest in the bands than there was before. That's kind of what happened to your scene as well, right?
Absolutely. I go to the show we're playing tonight at the Vets Hall in Santa Cruz. I can see it right now from the window in this coffee shop I'm in. It's a sold out show at the big venue. I don't know, hundreds of people. I've seen Terror headline this venue before, and it's people are spilling out of the doors. There's so many people in here. But to think 5 years ago that might not have happened. We would have shows at Sub Rosa or Cafe Pergolesi or a house in San Jose maybe, or the X Bar, something like that, and you'd be lucky to get 100 kids. And that would seem like a whole universe of people. It's 100 people. It's more than the bands just playing to the other bands. But now I go to shows, and I don't know most of the people there, and I think that is incredible. There's so many young people. There's so many young people that give a shit, that want to learn about the history of punk or hardcore, even ska music, believe it or not. And it's wonderful because I used to be one of those. Half this podcast has been about when I was an annoying little kid bothering you guys at your shows. You know what I mean? So to see a new generation of that kind of restores my faith in humanity, which these days is pretty low often.
Did you see? Because I saw with the ska scene, I saw it happen online. I saw the increase of interest, but people kind of just, I don't know if it's that they were able to connect with the other people in the scene better online during this time, or the music itself, but I kind of watched it happen. Did you see that happen in hardcore too? Did it migrate to the online space? Okay.
Absolutely. Like forums like Reddit and stuff have just been nonstop. You can refresh those kind of things. Twitter is a huge hub for like the hardcore community online.
Okay, so were you at the Turnstile show in Santa Cruz in August 2021 at the Vets Hall Center?
I was not at the Turnstile show where someone pooped on the stage.
Wait, did they poop on the stage or did they poop in the audience?
They pooped on the stage. It was on the corner of the stage.
Ow!
I think they got a little poop in their chonies or something, and I think that they just kind of emptied it out, like the last couple candies in a pillowcase after you go trick or treating.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of just shook it out real quick. Unless they touched it with their bare hand, that's weird. That is weird.
That is bizarre.
So nobody saw it. Nobody knows who did it, right?
No one knows to this day.
To this day. Interesting.
And it happened again at the Vets Hall that I'm looking at right now. That's where it happened.
Do you think anybody's going to poop at the show tonight?
Honestly, if this goes on longer, I might. I'm just kidding. I've gotten really good at clenching it. I live in a van.
Don't go anywhere. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, head over to our Patreon. Thank you for listening to In Defense of Ska. Please rate and review this podcast and tell a friend. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at In Defense of Ska. Pick up Aaron's book, In Defense of Ska, at your local bookstore or online. This podcast is edited by Chris Reeves of ska-punk International. This is your co-host, Adam Davis of Omnigon, leaving you by saying ska now more than ever.
Nice.
That's
Is that you, Adam, or?
I know that sounds like I just sampled a Shoo Shoo song, but that's actually just me.
Wow. How excited were you to have Jamie on the podcast?
Pretty excited. I especially liked when we logged in and Jamie didn't realize it was our podcast. That was my favorite part. And I was like, Jamie, it's your old roommate. Hey, speaking of being Jamie's old roommate, head over behind the curtain. I'm going to go tell you a whole bunch of stories about when I lived with Jamie Stewart.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear those, head over to the Patreon. We've got different tiers set up there. We've got special prizes for you.
Ooh.
You should head over and hear these stories. Some of them get kind of crazy.
Yeah. Every tier will allow you to listen to the behind
any
the
tier,
curtain.
but sign up for the most expensive one, please.
Yes, please. Ask your mom for the money.
Ask your dad. I know you haven't seen him since he went out for milk. But hey, listen, who do we have next week, Aaron?
Oh, next week we have Bailey Lupo from the acclaimed hardcore band Scowl.
Yes. We've known Bailey for a very long time. Very excited to have them on the podcast. They're not somebody that you would expect to have a ska history, but oh, they do.